Good evening, Professor Rabia Salihu Sa'id. It's a great pleasure to have you join us on today's episode of A Woman in Nuclear podcast. We are so excited to have you, and there's something I usually tell trailblazers like yourself whenever I have the opportunity to anchor or host a program that involves discussing with you, and that is you'll be the best person to tell us about yourself. There are definitely things that I may leave out or things that I may not be able to project in the way that adequately and accurately describes you. So we want to know who you are, want to know about yourself. Just introduce us who you are, your what you currently do, and any other thing you would like us to know about you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Keziah, and thank you for calling me a trailblazer, and thank you for having me on this podcast. I am Rabia Salihu Sa'id, a girl born to a soldier father. My father was a soldier, and I was born in 1963. I was still a little girl when the civil war in Nigeria started. My father, as a soldier, was first based in Kaduna, and I guess that was where I was born. And then we moved to Kano, and I started my primary school at the Army Children's School in Kano. Thereafter, the war, the civil war broke out, and somehow I think we just stayed put while my father went to the war front. When the civil war ended, he returned. He was posted to Yola. At that time, Yola was under the northeastern state, and that was where I had my primary school at Yola, which is the current Adamawa state. After that, I went to secondary school. I went to the Federal Government College Sokoto, and after that, I got married, and there was a little break in my career until around 1990, when I returned to the university to start a degree. And then I got a first degree in physics, and thereafter I had a master's degree in physics. And then I got a scholarship by the Ford Foundation to do another master's degree in environment and development. And this is because of the passion I had for the environment. I wanted to get a degree that would give me an expertise about the environment, and then also the development of the community. After I returned, that was done in the United Kingdom at the University of Reading in Berkshire. After I came back, I was already employed by Bayero University in the physics department. So I returned back to Bayero University, and then I did my PhD, and I completed my PhD in physics and continued my career as a lecturer in the department. But I focused on atmospheric physics, and then I also had interest in nuclear non-proliferation and nuclear security, nuclear safety and safeguards. And that is so far what I've been doing. And that's briefly for now. If there are more while the questions going on, I think I could elaborate more. Thank you.
Wow, very beautiful story and very beautiful history you have. It's I try to connect everything that you said being born during the Civil War, going to school, the university, which wasn't very common, especially in the North, and studying this kind of course,
Yeah.
physics. It's no news
Mhm.
that the STEM field is parsley has very few women and is dominated by men, especially in during the time when you decided to study it. So
Yeah.
could you tell us a bit about what your interests were in physics? What would you say drew you to studying physics? Did it happen by chance? Was it your choice? And if it was your choice, would like to know the story behind it and the motivation.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Even though my father wanted me to study medicine, and if you have to study medicine, it will be biology. You have to have biology, chemistry, and then the physics, of course, and then maths and your credit in English.
Yes.
Unfortunately for me, I was very, very poor in drawing. So and biology involved, trying to draw all those complicated parts of the human body and so on. So
That's
I
true.
usually have this poor grades, the poor grades in biology, and then there was this thing, which I also always tell my students, is that of uh, the question of physics is usually very long, and then you end up the solution is somehow short. It will tell you,
That's true.
yeah, it will tell you so much story about a car moving at a particular space and then reaching so and then decelerated, and then finally it tells you that maybe find the velocity or find the acceleration, and
That's
it's
true.
just maybe 2 3 steps, and you will be able to solve the question. And when
Yes.
you solve it, you can get full marks. While in the case of biology, they will tell you, maybe describe maybe the functions of the ear or something, and then you have to also illustrate with clear diagrams. I was very poor with the clear diagrams. And then you write copiously. You write pages upon pages upon pages. And then finally, the marks is so small. The marks is small. So maybe
Yes.
those were the things that actually, motivated me looking at physics. You just go like straight. It's like straight to the point. If
Straight
you
to the
read,
point.
yeah, if you read and you know the formulae that you're going to use, you will get your full mark. uh, I can say that probably those are some of the reasons why physics was very interesting for me. And I also used to do very well in geography. My grades in geography were very good. In fact, they were better than that of physics. But the geography department at the time I was studying was in the new campus. Bayreuth University had an old campus and a new campus. And my house was closer. I would reach the old campus faster than reach the new campus. And also it meant extra money. You have to pay money in order to get to the new
Yes.
campus. So,
Yes.
so the question of biology, and then the question of the amount of money you will pay in order to get to were some of the determining factor. And since physics was the second best, I therefore chose physics.
Chose physics. Wow. I can everything you say I can relate to it because I also studied physics in my undergraduate. I can relate to it.
Yeah.
Physics is very interesting when it comes to word problems and then trying to find a way about around the problems. So I like your your interest and your motivation gives a very, very good background for the next question I'm about to ask. And going from having this interest in a subject and the way it entailed the the nature of the
Yeah.
assessment, the nature of the problems you have to solve. Going through studying a bachelor's degree, studying a two master's degree, and then a PhD. and also now you're a professor. How would you say your career has evolved over time, going from that young woman who had interest in physics and who loved to see um, problems on paper be the basis for life solutions? How would you say that has evolved into who you are now and what you've been able to achieve during the space of your experience and your um, professional um, professional journey?
Yeah. It's somehow it's not easy when one looks back, because it meant that you had to balance the house and then your studies. Especially for me, when I finished secondary school, I got married, and then I had a year after that I had my first child, and then 2 years after I had a second child, and then again 2 years after that was subsequently it was like in 1984, 1986, 1988, and then like just before I had my fourth child, that was when I decided to go back to the university. So I was going back to the university while I already had about three young children. So it wasn't really as I was saying, I had three little children, and there I was wanting to go back to the university. So what made it easy was that you had help from relatives, some nieces. Sometimes they come to stay with you, and then I had this old lady who was almost like a grandmother to the children, and she stayed with us. So it made some of the things easy. I could go for my lectures and then come home. I know that there's somebody there staying with the children, and at the same time being able to provide them with food. And then there was this because I needed finances to finance my studies. I opened a nursery school just for 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds. They come in and they do the pre-nursery, and then they finish and we graduate them, and then they go on to primary school. So it was just a nursery school. And so that provided a base for my children to be able to go to school. It was a story building. So we lived upstairs, and then the downstairs was used as a school. And then it had a large compound. That compound was served as a playground and so on for the school. So it really made sense because my children at that time had a place to school while I was doing my studies. So I think those were the things that really made it a little bit easy, but not that it wasn't difficult. It was still a very difficult venture, because by the time I graduated with my first degree, the day I was defending my BSc project, my daughter at that time was 2 weeks old. So I had, with the way we back children in Nigeria, I had her back, and then I did my presentation. And because I was using a big veil, and it was a kind of cold season, so I covered the baby, and she was on my back, and you wouldn't know that I was backing a baby since she was just 2 weeks old. Aww. It was just, so it was just as I was about to round off, then I think she woke up from sleep, and then she made a noise, this baby noise. And then somebody, my HOD at that time just said, who has a baby here? And then I showed them that I had a baby on my back, and he said, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Know that I had a baby with the presentation. It's also that's my final year project, and I think I got an A in that
Wow.
And-
Amazing.
mm,
Amazing.
mm.
Wow. We've not even gone halfway to our discussion, and I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired. I think you're someone who we cannot have a boring conversation about you, because your journey has so many angles. There are so many angles. And my follow-up question was going to be what challenges you've faced in your journey. And it seems you've been able to address some of it, being a mother, being a wife, managing a business as a school owner, while schooling at the same time, working at the same time, and being every other place you have to be. Wow. It's really a lot. So,
Yeah.
I'll also like to know if there are any projects you've done or any things you've done that you will consider an achievement within the space of your career.
Yeah.
Anything you've done that you feel proud?
I think one of the things that I usually do consider as an achievement is the role that I played in like the career advancement of or determination for young people in secondary school to choose a career. I usually get invitations to, probably career days in secondary school, or sometimes some of the STEM clubs in the secondary school, and they ask me to come and talk to the girls. That role, which I was able to play, serving as a mentor and a role model for those secondary school girls to really determine and decide to pursue a career in science. I feel that is one of the best things that I have done, which I find very rewarding. For example, we had this program with one secondary school called Wisdom, the school which is based in Abuja, and it was the proprietor of that school was one of the Ford Foundation fellows. I told you I got the Ford Foundation fellowship. So one of the Ford Foundation is a proprietor of that school. So he invited me one time in a program which they called Making Future Female Scientists, Making Future Female Scientists. And the role was for me to come and present myself and present the work that I do, so that these girls will be inspired to pursue a career in science. And when I went there and we carried out the program, it was so well received by the students that finally they were able to establish a science club where they developed, many different things, which will scientifically based devices. They were able to do so many things, carried out experiments, and almost 50% of the students of those girls went on to science courses, engineering, medicine, even
that's amazing.
Yes, so they went on to focus in science, and then again the same thing. I also mentored another set of girls in the which is a program by another organization called the Viciola Foundation, and then there's also Raga raising the ambitions of girls also, which is another one. It's more of a mentorship. So those areas where I did the mentorship for secondary school girls, which inspired them to take up science as a course, I think is one of the things that I really feel glad about, and I think I consider it an achievement. That is at the secondary school level. At postgraduate levels as well, and within my university, one of the projects that I also consider as another great achievement is getting the grant from the CRDF Global and doing this capacity building for women in nuclear security, trying to bring to the academic community of my university, show them the diversity in the nuclear security field. That is not just scientists, policy makers, IT specialists. Many of the other areas are all come together in an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary way to work towards using nuclear peacefully. And I was, pleasantly I was pleasantly surprised and pleasantly accomplished that many of those in the academia who did not know about nuclear being used peacefully, being used in medicine, being used in agriculture, came together and they were surprised that before that capacity building, all they thought about when they hear nuclear is only about the nuclear bomb. And then we did a radio broadcast, where we also enlightened a lot of people, and people kept on calling and saying that they were amazed. They didn't even know that when you talk about nuclear, you are not just talking about the atomic bomb or any weapon of mass destruction, but you can actually use it for good.
Wow. That's really amazing. And I love how women-centric your achievements sounds to be. The two major achievements you mentioned, the one where the fellow for foundation invited you to his school to talk to some girls, and there was massive positivity that came with the sorry. Yes. So your achievements are very women-centric, as I noticed. And different people have their different opinions as to what gender equity is and as to the value of women in several sectors, such as the academia, the scientific sector, different sectors. But coming from someone like you with a very intensive and diverse kind of experience, I would love to know your perspective about the role of women in fields like this that are dominated by the male gender. What do you think women have to add? What value do you think women bring to the table? And why do you think it's important to continue to do things like you do and things like you did about encouraging girls and women to be in fields like this?
Yeah, it's especially in this field, in the field of physics, and then in the field of nuclear in particular, we know that there is a need to close the gap. I think I just saw today that the IAE had achieved at the top leadership. They have been able to achieve, I think it's 49, 49-50 parity. so that it's almost getting to 50-50 for the male and female within that institution. You see, the only reason why the IAEA has reached that is this consistent programs that they instituted to bridge the gap. And preferably, they made sure that there are programs that were specific to women. And this was why, this gap, they were able to close this gap. It is for that reason, bridging the gap and then closing the gap of the parity gap. It's why we do concentrate on the females, and then we keep on and on. But of course, I do mention sometimes that there's a fear that if we will, as we keep trying to close the gap, at the same time, we will be carrying the male along, so that we don't get to a stage where we have a reverse gender bias, and where we have left also the men behind. And I think a lot of organizations have started to look at this role where they talk about the male champions, because we have, there was a program I attended, one program where they had male and female. I mean, they brought in males who supported their partners or their spouses in the field of their career, and then they actually celebrated those men, in the hope that when that is done, more men will also back their spouses or their partner, and this will now help to move the females forward, and then therefore will be reaching will be closing the gap as we want it. Want it. So I feel that our work is not yet done, and the international community also, I think, recognize that, and that's why you get these special grants which are actually tailored towards working with women or girls, and I think it's a good thing.
Wow, thank you very much for that very comprehensive answer. Okay, so on to our next question now. You made some very solid points about what role women have to play in the nuclear industry, and why it's important for gender parity to be worked on in Nigeria and in Africa generally. How do you think the nuclear industry can achieve this? What do you think can be done to help us get there? We may not get up to IAEA's level, because of course the statistics show it. We are nowhere close to 40-60% when it comes to the share that women have in this field. But of course, there are some things that can be done to help us get there. And in your opinion, what do you think can be done to help us achieve gender parity and to help us get a balance?
Thank you very much. That is a very good question. And I think it's one that I've always also considered. And I actually do think that some of these programs, like the Minerva project, which focused on mentorship, I think in the very, very early days, it was one of the things that I said was very important in order to create parity and to bridge the gap between the male and female in any industry, whether it is nuclear or any other career path, is this mentorship. I've always felt that there is no way, because I saw it even with my children. It is always the things that they do are the things that you show them. if you don't tell them to do X, Y, Z when they have not seen you doing it. So I realized early on that role modeling and using the role modeling and then together with mentorship is one of the key roles in order to get. So if you are in leadership position, that you become a role model for those that are coming. They would see that you are female and you lead, you are at the apex of leadership. Then they would agree that yes, it is possible for them to get there too. And then they will aim to get to that point. And therefore, with more and more of the females seeing you as a role model and getting up to that stage, then we'll have many females at the top position. And you see, then we'll start to close that gap in the leadership. Actually, for us now in Nigeria, what we are trying even to do is to get many of the females into different careers. Let them be part of it. Once we get there, once they get into the career, then they can move up rapidly with good character, with integrity, with doing things the right way and doing it correctly, knowing what they are doing, being experts in their field. They will get to the top positions. And once they get to the top positions, they would mentor those that are behind to also get to that top position. And gradually we'll have a core group of leadership that are female, and then they can stand shoulder to shoulder with the men in that leadership cadre. So I am somebody who has always been a champion of mentorship, and at the same time role modeling. I think I've done a lot of talks about role models as a means of bridging the gap between male and female in any career, and at the same time in leadership position. Yeah, I say, if you don't tell them they can do it, but tell them you are it, and they too can now aspire to be it.
Yes. I have first-hand experience of everything that you mentioned. Indeed, you are a role model. You have played a very big role in inspiring young women, young ladies to pursue their passions, to pursue careers, to pursue their passions, and to be driven by and also motivated. So to wrap this up, I want you to, in a few words, say something to a young lady who is aspiring to enter into the nuclear field, or let's say into the STEM field. But maybe she's having some doubts, she's having some skepticisms, or maybe she wants to break the status quo, just like you did. What would you say to her?
I will say to this young lady, have confidence in yourself, but make sure that nobody's going to just give you everything on a platter of gold. You must work for it. So if you take any of the course, be it engineering, be it technology, be it computer science, work towards it with all you have got. Be an expert. I tell people that, when people see you as a female, they say, if it's a male-dominated field, the first thing that they would always say is that you cannot do it, or you are not up to it. So they would want to challenge your expertise. They will want to challenge what you know. You need to be able to give them, let them know that you know your onions. You know every aspect. You are an expert in that field. You are not there just to be fanciful so that they give it to you. but you want them to know that this is something that you know. I will advise that young lady to dress well, be smart, show that yes, you are a lady, but at the same time, this course that you have taken, any of the STEM field, you are an expert in it. If they can solve it, you can solve it too. I don't want a situation where the lady should not feel that, okay, because she's a lady, they are going to go soft on her or give her the answers. She has not studied. This is what I'm always saying. Know it very well, so that there will be no room for anybody to say that, after all, we just gave it to her. So this is advice that I would want to study. Let them study hard, know what you are doing, and make sure that you are able to, to fit in there. And at the same time, take good care of yourself. You don't have to be tomboyish. Make your hair very well, dress very well, but at the same time, make sure that your brain is also well dressed. You know what you're doing. So this is the advice I will give.
Oh, wow. What a multifaceted set of advice. So young ladies watching this, you've heard from our trailblazer. Take care of yourself. Study hard. Invest in yourself. There's a saying I once heard that if you get invited because you are a woman, like they invited you just because you're a woman, make sure that the next time you're coming there, you're not going there just because you're a woman. You're going there because you are an expert. And our prof has been able to explain that better. So we're so grateful for having you on this episode of our podcast. And we hope that this will not be the last time we're going to see you, because you always bring first. This is not my first time of meeting you or discussing with you, but I definitely have learned new things. I definitely have heard a lot of things that I know are going to help me myself in my own career. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your kind words of advice. And we hope to see you some other time.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, it's been my pleasure too. Thank you. And you are doing great things. I am much impressed and proud.
Yes, sir. Yes, so I wish you a blissful day and to have a wonderful time.
Thank you. And you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.